Hey people, in today's conversation, I'm going to be having a podcast with Rebecca, who is into behavior. She's a behavior scientist, and she has the privilege to serve both adults and children using applied behavior analysis, that is ABA, across diverse settings, including facility-based care, group homes, day centers, clinics, and family homes throughout United States and overseas. So I'm really looking forward to meet her, and I'm waiting for her. And yeah, she has done a lot of things in her career. She has been a vice president. She is a director of clinical compliance consultant, and several things are done on her part. I'm really looking forward. I guess Rebecca is here. Hey there, Rebecca. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I was just waiting for you, to meet you and to ask you all the questions. So thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you for, I didn't realize that you had to do this in the middle of the night. So thank you for being willing to do it so late. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. I was really for me, like this is a big part of my life. I always like to meet new people, so I can do it 24 hours into 7. So yeah,
Oh,
I didn't want to, lose you in terms of this podcast thing. So yeah,
sure. Where are you calling from?
I'm from India. I'm from India.
From India? Okay, fantastic. I've been to Indonesia and Singapore. That's about it, but not India yet. So maybe one day.
Sure, sure. Why not? And like I was introducing about you to my viewers, that you worked with both adults and children across diverse settings. So, can you share what first inspired you to enter the field of applied behavior analysis?
Yeah. It wasn't anything that had to do with the ABA. It was really when I was in college, there was this gentleman who worked in our kitchen, and he always had a staff with him. And the gentleman would always give me like little gifts and say the sweetest things. And I asked the staff one day, I was like, "Who are you and why are you always with him?" And he explained he was his staff, and this guy lived in a group home. And that just was so interesting. Like I didn't, that opened up my eyes. And so at the same time, I was taking a psychology course. I loved it. So I wanted to take that passion and make it into a career. So I switched from nursing to psychology.
Intriguing. Wow. And you are also into health and fitness, right? Because I watched some of your images, and like you are a like gigantic woman. You have a lot of muscles and all.
So funny. I do like to work out. Yes, yes, I like to be healthy. Yeah.
Wow. So it's a pretty good thing. I'm a yoga trainer and English teacher by profession. Yeah, so even workout is a big part of my life. So yeah, I watched it and I was quite happy that I'm meeting a person who is equally into health and fitness.
Absolutely. That's great that you do yoga. That's awesome.
And Rebecca, looking back, is there a particular moment or success story that you confirmed that you were on the right career path?
It's a great question. I think one of the moments was when I was first starting to work with children, and I was teaching a child who was not vocally verbal, meaning he could communicate, but just not with words. And he said his first word, and like just seeing his parents have a reaction, I had the reaction, just hearing like his voice forming the sound. It just was life changing. And I knew in that moment I only wanted to have more of those moments for the rest of my life. So yeah, never will forget it.
Wow, well, that's awesome. Yeah. And for listeners, Rebecca, who may not know or who may not be familiar, how would you explain ABA in simple terms and why is it so impactful?
That's a tough thing because ABA is a science, but it stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And really, what it is just the science of understanding why people do what they do
Okay.
and using that information to help them learn skills or reduce problem behaviors. And what's unique about it is that it's Individualized. So every person is going to have their own ABA plan and it's measurable. And so it allows people to make meaningful change in their life in a way that actually works for them and is meaningful to them.
Hmm, intriguing. So how long does it take for you to figure out that this person is has this kind of ABA and now I need to work in this particular manner?
That's insightful. So it kind of depends on the complexity of what you're looking to change. So if it's something very simple and straightforward, where it's maybe just a single behavior and there's not a lot of components to their day, it can go relatively quickly. It can be evaluated within like a series of an hour or two. But if it's, looking to make more changes over different settings with different times of day, the more things you have to evaluate. And so, like within healthcare in the United States, it takes the average behavior analyst about 20 hours to do an
Okay,
assessment. So, quite a long time, depending on what you look at.
astonishing. And as we both are into the this thing, fitness thing, I would like to know that if a person who does regular workout, how his behavior is, different from the person who doesn't do it.
Like how does ABA help them with their workouts, you mean?
No, not in terms of ABA, but in terms of mindset. A person who does regular workout compared to a person who never hits the gym.
Oh, I mean, lots of things. There's both internal and external feedback coming. So externally, they're going to see a change in their body, especially if they take what they're doing in the gym or in their fitness center into the kitchen and they're making dietary changes. Internally, they're going to come in contact with like the release of different chemicals within their body that are going to be addictive to some extent. And so it's going to make them want to work out more. And then they'll see the physical changes through their clothes, and people probably comment them. So it becomes very reinforcing. There's both inside and outside things that can help a person stay on that path for sure.
Intriguing. Wow. And you are passionate about ensuring ABA service delivery meets high standards. What does quality ABA look in practice?
You know, um, when you think about quality, like a lot of people, like no one is like, oh, I will only want okay-ish ABA or only want like average-ish ABA. Everyone wants quality, but what that really means is that's the result, not the like not the it's the result of doing things right. So, when you work out and you're wanting to get like really good definition in your upper body, there's a certain form you have to have when you're doing repetitions with weightlifting, right? With If you don't do it the right way, you can cause injury or strain, or you may not just get efficient effects. Very similar to ABA. If you want the best outcome to be termed as quality, there are standards that are developed in our industry that are evidenced by research and peer reviewed. So if you follow those processes correctly, you're going to get a faster result of a life changed, evidenced by data, similar to fitness, a body change, evidenced by muscle groups, and better overall health. And so quality can include making sure that the programming is individualized, that it's being delivered as intended by the practitioner. You're taking data to show measurable change. And if things aren't changing quickly, you're making adjustments to ensure the treatment is having the intended effect, similar to weight loss or fitness, where, if you're working out and you're not shifting the scale or you're not shifting your physique, understanding what it is that needs to be tweaked. Just a lot of very good parallels, but that whole point about quality is doing things that the research shows is the fastest way to get to the best results possible.
Okay. And when it comes to ABA, like, does it have to be anything with like mental, kind of depression, anxiety, or anyone can go for this thing for the betterment of their life?
Yeah, there's ABA is not diagnosis specific, meaning it's not for only a certain set of diagnoses. It is specific to the person's behavior, irrespective of their diagnosis. The diagnosis informs the approach. So again, to make the analogy with fitness, if you see a person who has a shoulder injury, that informs how you might work with them through a fitness program. You're not going to have them do upper body stuff, right? You might have them do lower body. With someone who has a diagnosis, that helps identify maybe what treatment outcomes are, what type of strategies you might use, how their day might look like because maybe if they're depressed or might be spending more time in bed and they want to change their behavior. So it really is about having the diagnosis help set up what ultimately the client or the patient wants to affect through ABA.
Intriguing. Wow. And you have worked both in the USA and overseas. So how does ABA delivery differ in different countries?
Oh, brilliant question. So the United States is it's an interesting place. We're very fortunate to have resources, although it's not always the case in every place. Um, but overseas, it's so different because what we think as a wait list is nothing compared to what other countries go through. There's at the time I went to Singapore, there was only one behavior analyst in the whole country. And when I went to Indonesia, I don't think there was any BCBAs in the whole country. And so people are willing to take whatever you're able to give them when you're there. And the strategy is different. It isn't so much about the direct intervention with the folks that need it, but it's equipping the staff, the family, the caregivers with the right skills and techniques to be successful when you have to go back home. So I think it's a little bit more of a delay to get to those more efficient outcomes. Um, and that was historically, I know that things are growing and changing across the countries worldwide, but in the United States, there's definitely more resources, it's a blessing, but it's difficult for other countries for sure.
Intriguing. And Rebecca, if I call a spade, prior to meeting you, I didn't know single thing about ABA, and then I did some research and all. Even I'm not sure if this thing exists in India. So, like, are people aware about this thing? Like, do people come to you that I want to do ABA? I'm not sure what's the right way of putting it into, but I want to do.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, how it works in the United States is if a person wants to come get ABA, first they usually have a specific reason. So, it's not just for autism or a certain diagnosis, but ABA can be used in companies. It's called organizational management, where companies will want to change the behavior of their employees, ultimately to help them be happier, more productive. It also can be used with older folks or people with brain injury to help teach them skills that they may have lost through age, contacting Alzheimer's or a traumatic brain injury. But primarily, it's used in the United States to support children with autism, and that is accessed typically through insurance. So, insurance will pay for them to get services. They have to get approval from the insurance. Legally, the every single state, all 50 states are required by law to offer coverage of ABA services, which took a lot of years of advocacy. And then there are, well-known fitness folks in ABA that actually make a practice of using ABA to enhance the fitness of other people. So it depends on what you need, and then that kind of directs where you go, and from there, how you're going to pay for it.
And Rebecca, we live in today's world, like we are often, bombarded with a lot of informations, and we try to, show us like different sort of reality on Instagram, social media. It's completely facade. So there are layers and layers of our personality. So what I'm trying to say is, uh, what is the right behavior? How can you like behavior is volatile in today's world. I see that one day a person is being nice, the second day like that person doesn't give you even a little bit of smile or something. So
Mhm.
how do you deal with this kind of fluctuations in the terms of behavior?
Yeah, super, super great question. Why do people act the way they do, right? Like what makes one person happy one moment and then like the next time you see them, they like punch you in the face?
Yeah.
There are a lot of things. There's not one straightforward, simple answer, but you can kind of think about it if a person is sort of like a pie chart or um, accumulation of different things. So those different things can be their physical condition, internally, do they have some type of pain or illness or headache or something that's making them not feel like themselves? There's their environment, like not just where do they live and what does it look like, but do they have enough resources? Do they have access to food? Do they have a job? Is their home safe? Do they have a supportive social network, like a family, friends, relationships? And then just their daily habits in general. So, do they have enough sleep, a good routine, a comfortable place to stay? And then you start to add in just like the overall things about their life. What drives the decisions that they make every day? Do they have a job that they go to that they're well compensated, or maybe they're ignored by their boss, or they have a coworker who's, a jerk to them?
Yeah.
And all of those things together, those are those different like elements or pieces or events that occur every single day that contribute to why a person acts the way they act or explains it to some extent.
Um, what are common challenges ABA organizations face that your consulting helps solve?
Uh, Lots of different things. I would say the primarily focus is on what I call clinical compliance. So that means, the ABA organizations that I work with, they work with health insurance companies. Health insurance companies have a lot of requirements. So they're going to pay you, but you have to follow the rules. And the rules are what are called a policy. And so if you provide services, for example, you have to write session notes about the services you provide that show you followed the requirements of that service, that you weren't teaching them homework or academic skills, but you were actually providing a medically necessary intervention. When I come into organizations, I help them understand how to write healthcare session notes, how to organize all of this information so it conforms with regulatory requirements, and that if they're ever asked to support, the reason why they are doing services, they're ready to go. And then I teach them how to do it as well if they don't know how to do it.
Mm. And do you see a rise in in terms of people who are seeking this kind of ABA thing, who want more, because of recession, inflation, social media? You see a rise
Yeah.
in number of people.
There's definitely always a growing demand for ABA services. I'm not sure like so when it comes to autism and how a person goes to get ABA services, usually it starts with a child is not diagnosed. They're, maybe 18 months to 3 years old, and their parents notices something like they're not talking anymore, or they're really fixated on like their hands flapping. So they take them to the doctor, and the doctor performs a diagnosis. But the first hurdle is that in some areas in the country, the wait list to get to a diagnostician is anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And so now they're waiting with this child who can't talk or who lost the ability to talk or who's having problem behaviors. And they're just waiting to find out, like, do they have autism? And that's essential for the child to get access to treatment, like ABA services, if they want it covered by insurance. So once they get, to the process where they know their child has the diagnosis, this whole time the family is dealing with the emotional like fallout of, oh my gosh, my little baby that I was so excited to have and I still love and I care about has a diagnosis I was not prepared for. Now they go to the next phase of finding the right provider, finding somebody who can work with what they're looking for, who individualizes things, and hopefully there's not a wait list. And then they go through the process of going through services for however long. It's a very taxing, very involved um, way of what's necessary, but of supporting children. And you asked, are there more people who are interested in this? And the answer is absolutely yes. So that's the scenario. It takes a long time to get to services, and the prevalence is growing. So the wait lists are growing, and the need is growing. We cannot have enough workers to support the families who need treatment for sure.
And like I said, I'm completely naive about this thing. So, what's the difference between a behavior analyst and a psychiatrist?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So, a lot of people don't know this, by the way. So there's, I would say, a couple of categories. A psychiatrist is technically a medical doctor. So they're an MD, not a PhD. An is many things, but in part is noted for their ability to prescribe medication, to diagnose and prescribe. So a person might go to a psychiatrist because they have depression and they're wanting to receive medication for it. A psychologist is somebody who is primarily focused on either research, like in academia, or providing consultation and counseling sessions. So they might have a PhD or a PsyD, a PSYD, which is a little bit different, but it's clinically oriented. They cannot prescribe medication.
Hmm, that's it.
Then there's a behavior analyst. And so to be a behavior analyst, you can have a master's or a PhD or an MD. Um, and the requirements are a little bit different in that you have to have a lot of education around behavior analysis, and then you have to have about 2,000 hours of supervision that's documented, and you have to pass a test.
Oh,
But you
okay.
cannot prescribe anything.
Hmm, got it. And hypothetically, let's assume that I have come to your clinic, and when it comes to a behavior thing, a lot of people tell me this thing. I have one thing about my behavior that is, I abhor eating junk food. I stay away from it. I'm like fanatic about it. Sometimes people say that sometimes if you eat it, it's okay. But for me, I don't feel like eating it. So, as a behavior analyst, what would be your approach or what would be your advice to me?
So it depends on your outcome. Like, what are you wanting? Are you wanting to have junk food at some point, or are you okay not eating it?
No, I'm completely okay not eating it, but people tell me that you should consume it all the time.
So I think like probably the rub isn't so much around eating food or not, but it's how to deal with people who want you to do something you don't want to
Yeah,
do. I think the skill there for you is to focus on giving you like a buffet of responses to people that isn't causing you to argue with them, but it is also setting a firm boundary around,
right.
hey, I love that you want to have that. I'm actually not, that's not my preference, and I'm so happy you have that. And thanks for being okay that I'm not having it. Something like that where it's disarming and it's not confrontational.
Yeah, directly rather than, yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, that's what I guess behavior analysts do that. Yeah, nice. And like there's also been culture where you try to always fit in the group. This thing always fitting in the group, but you don't want to fit in the group. During that time, what sort of advice would you like to give? Like, a lot of sorry for that, Rebecca. Like a lot of youngsters start smoking cigarettes because their peers are doing, their friends are doing it. They don't want to do it, but because of the societal, pressure or their peer pressure, they do it. In that case, what sort of advice would you like to give?
You know, it is so hard being young. It's so
Mhm.
hard being an adult, but it is so hard growing up. If someone was like, "Do you want $10 million to be a child again and grow up?" I'd be like, "No, not
Okay.
even a billion. Like, I'm good. I don't need it." Um, because of exactly what you said. It's hard to deal with the pressures of being young and not understanding that, like, when you're older, you're like, ah, it's not that big of a deal. But when you're young, it's everything. So I would say the first thing and this isn't really behavior analysis, this is just being human, is to have really good communication with younger people who are struggling with peer pressure, to let them know that you are a safe place for them to talk to vent with, to share things that maybe are not putting them in the greatest light, but they can tell you, hey, I did this really dumb thing, but I can tell you because I know that you still love me and you'll care about me. And then the next thing is also in those conversations is being really, really, really good at asking them questions and even better at listening. And what I mean by that is sometimes, especially for younger folks, people have a tendency to preach and say, hey, here's the 50 things you shouldn't do, da, 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 right? And you should do what I did. But what we miss is the opportunity to understand their perspective, hear their story about what they're going through, and get details about the things that are troubling them. So if you ask the right questions and then you just zip it and listen, that allows you to get at what you were asking about, which is how to equip them to handle peer pressures. And so it's understanding what causes them the pressure to begin with and why they're in those situations in the first place, and then giving them tools, whether it's things, oh, my, so that it's neutral, it's not stigmatizing, and they can feel comfortable doing it without feeling called out by their peers.
And Rebecca, when it comes to gender, like we men, as a man, we keep things bottled up, whereas on the other hand, women always share things. So they always feel light, they have a lot of friends and they can share the emotional stuff. But we men, we keep the things inside ourselves. So how do we can deal with emotions? You know?
Yeah, it's tough because, I'm sure you have listeners, guys, men right now that are like, man, I wish I just had one person I could talk to, one person that I could share something with, but no one even wants to listen to me. And I think what's difficult about that is that those emotions inside a man feel overwhelming and they don't have anyone to share with. But sometimes the key to doing that or being able to share is being that for somebody else. So finding that person and being a safe space for that person to open up to you allows them to say, "Oh, hey, like, are you going anything through anything?" Because if you think about people like, and you're in a situation like, let's say you're at a family gathering and it's time to eat food, no one wants to take like the first step to the like food line, right? But
Yeah.
then once someone does, everyone else sort of follows. And so for men, it's helpful to be that first person to take the initiative to open up, and often the other person will reciprocate.
Mhm.
Because everybody wants to share. It's just not having that model to see how to do it.
Wow, astonishing. And Rebecca, as a human being, not as a behavior analyst, what sort of advice would you like to give to people in general, youngsters, people in general about mental health, mental awareness, or anything from your life experience?
Mm. Um, I would say don't put so much pressure on yourself. Um, and what I mean by that is that I think people are really hard on themselves. They compare themselves to other people, like, I'm not good enough, I didn't do this much, or they have more, they have less, and I'm just not enough.
Mm.
And you will never be able to like go forward from that place until you stop looking around at everybody else and you look at what is in front of you and you do what you can, the very best you can. And as you do that, I promise you, there are people who are looking at you saying, wow, I want to be like him. I wish I could be like him.
Yeah.
And you will impact people so much more than if you're worried about what everyone else is doing compared to you.
Mm. Wow, awesome. And Rebecca, what are the things that you do to, escalate your inner strength, mental capability as a behavior analyst?
I'm a huge fan of studying and pushing myself. So, um, I love to read journal articles. I read research a lot. I also like to learn from people who are way smarter than me. I am constantly trying to take things in about what they say or how they view things. I've had the privilege of joining different boards and being on different committees. And so I've learned from awesome people there. And so those things, like the continued pushing myself and the accumulation of just learning from other people way
Mhm.
better than me, has helped me grow so much as a professional.
Intriguing. Wow. That reminds me of a quote Leonardo da Vinci said, learning never exhausts the mind. So I guess that's the
Mhm.
key to success. Keep on learning.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely agree.
Yeah, intriguing. And any habits that you do, Rebecca, that you can share with my viewers and even with me that can help, be a better person.
I think one of the things that I've learned over time is how critically important it is to protect your brain.
Okay.
Um, so like especially in the age of automation with artificial intelligence, there's this huge temptation to save time through automation, like have ChatGPT,
Mhm.
do XYZ for me. And not that that's wrong. I love AI. I know it's here, but what I would encourage you and other people to do is to look at your mind as a tool that you have to train and take care of, just like your body.
Yeah.
But if you start to stop training it through reading and critical thinking and engaging with folks, that tool it starts to weaken and you rely on things to think for you and you
Hmm.
lose that skill over time, right? And like even in the research, medical doctors have to go through classes in school, at least in the US, to learn how to think and to write. Like that they're actually taught how to do that as a part of their practice so they can conceptualize clinical cases. I'm not saying you have to do that, but as a person, protect how you think as an individual versus relying on stuff to think for you.
Wow. You won't believe this thing. In the light of what you are saying, Rebecca, today itself, I was listening to a podcast in which there was the podcast was about a research that had been done on a group of people. That one group follows everything done by the Chat GPT, the other follows the inputs of Google, and the third one they try to write the essay on their own. And the group that followed AI and Google, they had like 47% of lesser, I guess, neurons in their brain compared to the people who thought about writing the essay on their own without taking the help of these platforms. So I guess,
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, that's scary, but that's awesome that you recall that and like fascinating. I'm not surprised, but goodness, to hear it quantified, that's amazing.
Definitely. So yeah, that's even like while curating materials for my spoken English, I used to take aid of ChatGPT and all. But from today itself, I started, taking the help from the book itself, and I started thinking about the examples. Like if I learn a new word, I would think the examples on my own rather than directly typing into ChatGPT and then simply copy pasting it in my book.
Good for you. That's phenomenal. I think
Yeah,
that's so important. And it seems like such a small thing and it's a pain to do, but like the
definitely.
payoff, I mean, it's
Yeah,
so much more than if you would just let ChatGPT do it.
yeah, definitely. And on that note, I guess the meeting is compelling us to end, Rebecca. So I would like to say thank you to you for not this podcast, for a therapy session with you, and like that. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a guest on my podcast. And yeah, we'll catch up soon if possible.
Thank you. And if you ever come to the States, please let me know. I would love to connect with you in person. You are a true joy to talk with. It has been my absolute pleasure to speak with you. So thank you for thinking of me and inviting me to chat with you.
Likewise, the feeling is mutual. Take care, Rebecca.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.